the credibility of the CDC has plummeted to almost nothing. And it's a tragedy. We need the CDC, and we need them to be credible. We need them to be trustworthy. There should be such transparency.
Good evening. Welcome to Centerpoint. I'm Doug McKelway. We learned this morning that President Biden tested positive for COVID. It's impossible to figure out just where or how he got it, just as it is with so many other Americans. But when you are the leader of the free world, the news does rocket around the world very quickly, as do the concerns. At this point, we know that he is getting the same medical treatment that is standard procedure for someone his age, and that he is going about the business of his office from a secluded area in the residence of the White House. TBN's Governor Mike Huckabee is joining us now from Nashville with more on that and some of the other political news of the day. First, your reaction, Governor. Good to see you.
Well, it's great to see you, Doug. You know, I think it's interesting. Joe Biden has been one of those folks who has been hammering the line that COVID is the pandemic of the unvaccinated. Yeah. I guess we found out today something we already knew, that COVID can hit vaccinated people. And many of us have been vaccinated and still got COVID. So all of the guilt trips that have been thrown on the unvaccinated, I think perhaps were unwarranted. And maybe an apology is owed to those folks who, for whatever reason, just did not want to have the vaccine. Some of us didn't mind, in fact, wanted it. Other people didn't, and I respect that they have that right to make the decision. But there have been a lot of people who didn't, and I think right now we are reminded that COVID is not showing any favoritism when it comes to who it hits. It hits us all. And with the president having it, let's hope he continues to have what has been reported as mild symptoms of fatigue and some sniffles. But it's a reminder that anybody can get it. Now, did he get it from the fist bump with MSB? Did he get it from sniffing the hair of little girls who are visiting the White House? We don't know. But he's going to have to isolate for a while.
Indeed, he will. Not only is he vaccinated, but he's been boosted on 2 occasions. So that furthers your point. Now, there is some conflicting evidence that the symptoms after you've been boosted and vaccinated are less severe than if you were not. But I've also read some conflicting information about that. And that kind of gets to the heart of why this disease, why this virus has become so profoundly politicized, not just in the United States, but across the world.
Well, clearly there are people who, with various comorbidities, have a propensity to get a tougher case of COVID, whether they're people with lung issues, people with diabetes, people who are overweight. There are a host of things that can exacerbate COVID, and that's clear. We know that. There's also some anxiety among doctors who say that if there is a very healthy young person, the vaccine may be a bigger problem than COVID because there's almost an infinitesimal likelihood that a young person who is healthy will have any severe symptoms even if he or she gets COVID. But the issue of heart inflammation among particularly young men before the age of 18 has drawn some significant concern. The big answer in a lot of this, Doug, is we don't know. And that's why I hate to see people get so adamant about mandating various treatment prescriptions when we really don't know the full impact. Mm-hmm. So many of us have said, look, if it makes sense to do the vaccine, if that gives you some peace and perhaps lessens what might be harsh kind of symptoms, go for it. That was my decision. And I think maybe it worked out because I had virtually an asymptomatic version of COVID. Didn't hardly know I had it, had no symptoms at all. Was that because of the vaccine? Could have been, but I don't know. And I think we've got to be a little careful in being adamant and telling people, if you don't have the vaccine, you're not a good citizen. You don't love your fellow man. And you're the cause of the pandemic. That to me is harsh, unnecessary, and unproductive.
Do you think that the White House will use this occasion of the president's testing positive to impose more lockdowns or at the very least more mask mandates?
Doug, I think they may try, but I feel like that there's a large majority of Americans who are done with the idea of forced mask and lockdowns. Lockdowns have been disastrous, especially for school children. I mean, it has really done serious damage, not only to these kids in terms of their academic preparedness for their future, But the rate of suicide and social isolation of young people, particularly teenagers, has skyrocketed because of the lockdowns. So of all the things that there should be some agreement on, is that lockdowns, especially among young people, are a total disaster, and we ought to avoid them at all costs. Frankly, I think the smartest thing I heard a doctor say, he was an expert in the field of the issue of pandemics, and he made the comment. He was rather casual about it, but he said it as a matter of fact. He said, this is the first time in all of human history in which during a pandemic we isolated the healthy people. He said, historically, the first rule of a pandemic is you isolate the people who are carrying the disease or who are sick with it, but you keep the rest of the population moving and acting and serving and vital, because otherwise you're creating a bigger problem than you started with. I thought that was brilliant advice, and I wish somebody had employed it early on in the pandemic.
Well, you know, President Trump, to his credit, was constantly making reference to the fact that we can't lock down the United States economy amidst this thing. We can't keep going like that because the damage from doing that will be severe. And in fact, the United States is suffering the consequences of that. Not only the United States, this is happening the world over. I maintain that the lockdowns are in large part responsible for the tremendous unrest we're seeing bubbling up all around the world after people have been let up from these lockdowns. There are also questions, Governor, about whether the CDC and the FDA have been lying to us, or at least hiding some of the information. For example, the myocarditis inflammation issues with young men. There's a lot of questions which remain to be asked and answered.
I think that's why the credibility of the CDC has plummeted to almost nothing. And it's a tragedy. We need the CDC, and we need them to be credible. We need them to be trustworthy. There should be such transparency. And, you know, I don't mind it if scientists tell us we don't know. I think that's, to me, the mark of good government. It's the mark of good science when they say, here's what we do know, here's what we don't know. And they're honest about it.
Your show coming up Saturday night. Who's on tap?
Well, we've got some great guests lined up. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who is also Congressman Ronnie Jackson, and also Admiral Ronnie Jackson. He was also the White House doctor to Presidents Bush, Obama, and Trump. So he knows a little bit about the medical care in the White House. We'll talk to him about Joe Biden's bout with COVID, and of course, some of the things he's been saying about Joe Biden's cognitive abilities. Dick Morris will be with us. He's written a brand new book. He is convinced that not only will Donald Trump run again, but he's convinced he will win. And then one of the great legacy rock artists, Brian Hyland, is going to be with us. Everybody remembers the song Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini. That's a Brian Hyland song, along with Sealed with a Kiss. You can only see that on Huckabee on TBN, so why wouldn't you watch it?
When I was a little boy, I put the speakers on both sides of my ear to play that single again and again and again. It was truly a big hit. Governor, look forward to the show. Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Doug McKelway, and thank you for watching Centerpoint. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Leave a comment below and keep the conversation going by sharing this video with a friend who needs to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.